Would you give away your last $50 to help strangers on a freezing night? Mason did, without hesitation. What he didn't know was that this one act of kindness would come back to change his life forever. Mason had been keeping track of each cent of his paycheck from the gas station, living on quick noodles and barely paying the rent. With only $50 in his possession on New Year's Eve, he had to make a decision that would determine his humanity. A stranded family consisting of 3 young, the winter cold made the kids tremble, and their cars' every bank in the area closed, and the gasoline tank was empty. Mason spent his final moments without hesitancy. Money to assist these strangers in returning home securely. After 3 days, a dark limousine arrived at the same pump with news in tow. That would permanently change Mason's life. Welcome to Mystic Tales, everyone. Today, I can't wait to tell you a new story. Howling through the deserted area was the winter wind. Minneapolis streets as Mason Thompson began his job at the corner stop gas station at night. 8 p.m. was displayed on the wall-mounted digital clock. December 31st. The majority of people were already throughout their festivities for the new year, but such indulgences were beyond Mason's means. Behind the counter, he was examining his worn, another leather wallet. The unmarried. He just had a $50 bill inside. 5 days till his next paycheck. His rent was about to be due, and his house cupboard contained just 2 quick noodle packages. Mason muttered, "Just get through this shift." Rubbing his icy hands together, he spoke to himself. The little gas station store's heating seldom functioned, and his blue jacket from his uniform wasn't sufficiently thick for the winters in Minnesota. Slowly, the night passed. Mason washed the coffee makers, replenished shelves, and assisted the sporadic buyer in making party supplies or last-minute refreshments. At approximately 10:30 p.m., he spotted a vehicle, traveling abnormally slowly as it enters Pump 7. Mason observed through the storefront as a man wore a light jacket and went out with a blanket draped around a sleeping child. 2 more were held by a woman in the passenger seat. Snuggled together for warmth, children. With an anxious expression on his face, the man entered the business. "Pardon me, we're having some issues. Our gas tank is nearly empty, and we have 2 hours left before home. The pump's card reader isn't functioning, and every bank is closed." Mason saw the anxiety in the human eyes. The youngster in his arms, dozing, could not have been older than 4. "My mother's house was where we were for the holidays," the man added. "She is ill, and we lingered longer than anticipated. I believed, even though we had ample gas, the frigid weather. I had no idea how much petrol we would need." Mason approached and gazed out the window. The minivan. The woman was making an effort. In order to console their other kids, the cold was causing them to cry. The cars, the thermometer, and the gasoline gauge were both empty. It was 15 degrees below zero outdoors. A crack in the man's voice. "Is there any how a card payment might be processed inside? Until the banks open, we are unable to obtain cash, but we can't leave the kids here overnight." Mason's pocket held a $50 cash. It was his 5 days' worth of food money. He reflected on his own vacant apartment and the after his shift. He took a long, frigid walk home. Mason inquired, "How far do you need to go?" 2 hours or so north, to Duluth, perhaps 100 miles away. Mason quickly calculated. The cost of gas was exorbitant. However, $50 would safely get them home. He took out his last banknote without hesitation. "Allow me to fill you up. It's too cold for the children to be stuck." The man's gaze expanded. "We cannot tolerate. There must be another way to get your money." "Please," Mason murmured. I have a small sister who is roughly their age. I would want, if it were her, someone to assist. Once their tank was filled, Mason even made the store machine's hot chocolate use his employee discount, the kids. As they sipped the hot beverages, their faces brightened. Their parents were really appreciative. The man said, "I'm David Parker," in a husky voice, with feeling. "Sarah, my wife, and our children, we please take our number. We'll remember this. Transfer the funds to you as soon as the banks are open." Mason waved them away with a smile. "Just get all I need is for your family to be safe at home." Upon the minivan's departure from Pump 7, Mason observed until the taillights vanished into the darkness. His wallet was now empty, but his heart was full. He was unaware that this soon, a compassionate deed would transform everything. The days that followed were more difficult than Mason's had anticipated. He performed his usual duties at the petrol station, attempting to disregard his increasing appetite. At home, the quick noodles disappeared by January 2nd, and his subsequent the deadline for the paycheck was January 5th. On January 3rd, while working, Mason maintained he was occupied with cleaning the store. Winter. The weather had brought in a lot of mud and slush from the boots of customers. While he was mopping the floor, Steve, his manager, entered. "You haven't said anything since Steve remarked, 'New Year's Eve,' while verifying the inventory of the store. Everything okay?" Mason nodded without bringing up his empty stomach or pocketbook. "Just tired, that's all." Slowly, the afternoon stretched on. Mason was helpful. Consumers replenished shelves and made an effort to maintain. The store was poorly heated. Approximately 4:30 p.m., as he was setting out the coffee cups, a black limousine arrived at the lot. Mason initially believed he was seeing things. The stylish car parked directly in front of the Pump 7, the same location where he had provided assistance, the family that got stuck. An elegantly attired man and his people in their 60s entered the store. "Are you Mason?" the man said in a kind voice, but competent. "The youth who assisted a family on New Year's Eve with 3 kids." Mason's heart began to beat more rapidly. "Yes, I'm that person." "Are they all right?" The man grinned. "They're doing fine. Due to I'm David's father, Richard Parker. I'm you," he said. "I appreciate what you did that evening for my grandchildren." Mason recalled that David had said they had been visiting a family member who was ill. It was unexpected to him to be the owner of a limousine. "I got a call from my daughter-in-law, Sarah." In tears, Richard went on, "She explained to me how you helped them with your last $50. How did you know you wouldn't be able to get home? Should eat healthily till you get paid again." Mason's face began to warm up. They needed it more than I did. Richard produced an envelope. "I have a number of David assists at auto dealerships throughout the state. Me manage the company. When they informed me about I had to come meet you in person because of your kindness." He gave the envelope to Mason. "You'll discover a job offer. Your character is what we require at our Minneapolis headquarters dealership. The starting wage is $48,000 annually, with all benefits. Additionally, there's a check to pay for your $50 plus a little extra, to express gratitude for keeping my family safe." Mason's hands were shaking as he grasped the envelope. "Sir, I don't know what to say." With a, "Say you'll consider it," Richard answered. "We need helpful people like you, Mason. People, even if they are unable to contribute. David and Sarah informed me that you didn't even think twice." Mason examined the envelope while considering his little flat and the ongoing battle to earn a living. "I would be honored, Mr. Parker. when the older man said, "Call me Richard," grinned. "Can you begin on Monday of next week? You'll learn all you need to know from David." Mason opened the door as Richard made his way back to his vehicle. The envelope. There was a $5,000 check inside. Parker's money and employment documents motors. His deed of generosity had resulted in something he never thought he would have a genuine chance at a better life. Mason resigned from his position at the following morning at the gas station. Steve wasn't shocked to learn that he was going. "You are deserving of superior to minimum wage and night shifts, kid," his manager remarked, giving him a back pat. Mason made use of a tiny amount of the funds to purchase appropriate business attire for his new position. He discovered professional yet reasonably priced clothes from a nearby department store. 3 dress shirts, 3 pairs of black pants, and an affordable, cozy winter coat. Monday morning brought new snow. Mason traveled to Parker Motors by bus, arriving half an hour early. The car dealership was more larger than he had anticipated, with the winter light shines over rows of vehicles. At the door, David Parker greeted him. Shake his hand warmly. "Greetings from the team, Mason. Allow me to give you a tour." While strolling inside the dealership, Mason was presented to his new colleagues. It was a contemporary workplace, but cozy, not really opulent. They paused at a desk close to the sales area. "This will be your workspace," David said, outlined. "You'll begin as a customer. Service. Your encounters with individuals will be useful in this situation at the petrol station." Mason took a seat at his new desk and continued to comprehend how drastically his life had altered in several days. Rachel, a young lady from HR, helped him with papers in the morning and outlining his perks package. "Your health insurance will begin next month," Rachel clarified, "and you can enroll in our 401k plan following 90 days. We have paid time off as well." While on lunch, David asked Mason to join him in the break room to eat. Numerous other workers were present, consuming food and talking informally. It was comfy and felt usual. "My father told me something interesting," David said. Unwrapping his lunch, he said. "What he said? What really impressed him wasn't only your assistance, us. It was that you made no requests, nor even our contact details in exchange." Mason stirred his coffee. "To be honest, I was just considering your children. That night's temperature was perilous." Tom, a sales manager, joined their dialogue. "That's precisely why we required someone like you here. The main focus of this business is caring for others in addition to selling cars." Over the course of the day, Mason picked up the fundamentals of his new position. He would be dealing with clients, questions, scheduling service appointments, and assisting in guaranteeing customer happiness. It was simple labor, yet it provided genuine prospects for development. When his first day was over, Mason's desk was visited by David. How do you feel about everything?" "Grateful," was Mason's candid response. "However, likewise resolved to demonstrate my place here," David said. "You already have," with a smile. "By the Sarah and the children would like to have you. This weekend, come over for dinner. No pressure, however. They would love to give you a proper thank you." With a nod, Mason experienced a warmth that had his new winter coat has nothing to do with it. He was no longer fighting for his life to a genuine future, simply because he'd generous generosity on a chilly New Year's Eve. On Saturday night, Mason boarded a bus to the home of David and Sarah in a small suburban area. He had a tiny cookie box from the neighborhood bakery, not wanting to come without anything. Sarah smiled warmly as she opened the door. "Mason, thank you so much for coming." The trio children appeared behind her, now completely, unlike that chilly night at the gas station. I was awake. The home was comfortable and inhabited by family members. Children's sketches and pictures on the walls on the fridge. The youngest child, Emma, who is 4 years old, right away displayed her favorite plush animal to Mason. "I was holding this bear that night," she said quietly. "Daddy claimed to have served us hot chocolate." The older kids, Michael and the twin Sophie, who was 7 years old, spoke more. They sat on the couch next to Mason and inquired. He asks him about his job at the petrol station. "Did you feel afraid while working there?" "At night?" Michael inquired. Mason grinned. "Occasionally, but it was worthwhile to serve others." Everyone was invited to dinner by Sarah. The dish was easy yet tasty. Homemade lasagna with garlic bread. While they were eating, David told them tales about working at his father's dealership in his early years. "I began by washing in the service department. Automobiles," David clarified. "Dad had faith in gaining knowledge of the company from the beginning. He sees the same promise in you, Mason." Sarah extended her hand to grasp her husband's. "That we were really concerned at night, and the children were chilly. Our phones' batteries were dying, and everyone in the due to New Year's Eve, motels were completely booked. 2 more gas stations had passed us. Prior to yours," David continued, "they were both available, yet without one, nobody would assist functioning's card reader. After that, we located you." The compliment made Mason uneasy. Anyone would have done the same. "No," Sarah muttered. "They wouldn't. They didn't, so we know." The children insisted on exhibiting after supper. Mason their rooms. Sophie enthusiastically showed off her planet-related science project, while Michael displayed his assortment of toy automobiles. "Dad thinks you'll assist in selling real autos now," exclaimed Michael. "My first job is in customer service." "First," Mason clarified. "However, perhaps I'll learn how to sell vehicles eventually." As the night came to an end, Sarah packed some Mason can take the remaining lasagna in a container. House. He was reminded of his own mother by the gesture, who had died many years prior. "You're welcome here any time." Mason was about to leave when Sarah spoke. "We have family dinners every Saturday." David gave a nod of consent. "You are a member of our Mason. You have extended relatives now. What did you do?" "You demonstrated that it wasn't just about the money that night, teaching our kids the definition of true kindness." While traveling home by bus, Mason held the thought and a warm lasagna container regarding family. He had spent so much time by himself concentrating solely on surviving. Now, due to one choice on a chilly evening, he had not only a new career, but those who loved him. The 6 months at Parker Motors went by in a flash. Mason flourished in his position providing customer service, earning the admiration of his co-workers and clients similar. His innate compassion and readiness to heal was a valuable team member since he helped others. Richard Parker summoned Mason one morning to his workspace. The space was straightforward yet polished, with some family pictures on the wall and a desk. "Mason, please sit down," Richard replied, indicating to the seat opposite him. "I've been looking over your performance reports." Mason straightened his tie and sat down, anxiously. Richard put him at ease with a smile. "Every client you have assisted has given you favorable comments," Richard went on. "David indicates to me that you have frequently stayed late to assist customers in times of need. I simply try to be kind to people. I desired to receive care while I was struggle," Mason said candidly. Richard gave a nod. "That's precisely why I desired to speak with you. A new dealership is being opened next month in St. Paul. We require someone to serve as the head of their customer service division. Suggested you for the job." Mason's gaze expanded. "Sir, I've just spent 6 months here. During those half years, you've demonstrated greater leadership and ethics." Richard said, "More than many people do in years. There's a substantial raise associated with the position, and the chance to assemble your own group." Mason reflected on his progress from at the petrol station that chilly night. Now he had a savings account, a cozy apartment, as well as frequent Saturday meals with David's family. The hardship of making ends meet payday seems like a faraway recollection. "I'm grateful, sir. I'm honored to take the job." "Good," grinned Richard. "However, I've told your family now, so call me Richard." Later that night, Mason went through his former neighborhood, the corner Stop Fuel. The station remained, its flickering vintage fuel pumps and lights. Steve was in the rear, the counter as in the past. "Mason," Steve said kindly, "look at you, all dressed up in a suit." Mason spoke with his previous supervisor, distributing information about his advancement. While a young woman entered, her face troubled. The words, "Excuse me," she whispered softly. I left my wallet at home and ran out of gas. I'm 20 minutes away from home." Mason pulled without thinking. He took his wallet out. "Which pump are you at?" Steve grinned knowingly as he saw Mason assisted the stranded motorist. A few things hadn't even, if Mason's situation had changed. Mason sat in his apartment later that evening, examining a framed picture hanging on his wall. It displayed him among David's relatives at 2 months ago during their Easter meal. The laughing lights up the kids' faces. Below, it was the gas station's initial name tag, a reminder of the starting point of his adventure. Sarah texted him on his phone saying, Don't forget about Emma's birthday celebration on Saturday. She is adamant that Uncle Mason must be present." Mason grinned, appreciating how one act of generosity had changed not only his professional life, but all of his life. He had discovered more than achievement. He had a family. Did you enjoy this story? Press the like button, and for more, sign up for Mystic Tales. Let's understand how this tale affected you. In the comments, using only one word.